So guys, today we will be comparing the first Sino-Japanese War with the Russo-Japanese War.
No.
Anyway, the first Sino-Japanese War first began following the years after the Meiji Restoration in 1868. During the Restoration, Ito Hirobumi, the Prime Minister of Japan at that time, once said,
"Since government is concerned with the administration of the country as a whole, it does not follow that its acts are always favorable to all individuals."
During those years, Japan underwent a transition from being a feudal society to becoming a modern industrialized state. After going through industrialization, Japan set its sights on Korea. However, this was a problem because Korea has long been a tributary state to the Qing dynasty of China.
We don't care.
I know you don't. So, moving on. After the Japanese had industrialized, the army was powerful. They copied Western styles of fighting and used Western-style firearms and artillery. The army was at first modeled after the French army, but then they decided Germany was better. The Japanese Navy was modeled after the British Navy, which was the most powerful navy at the time. Ito Tsuchiyuki was the commander-in-chief of the Japanese Navy. Now, compared to the Japanese, the Chinese army was old and traditional. In fact, they did not have a formal army. Instead, Qing China relied on the Beiyang army and Beiyang fleet. What this meant is that they were weak and disunified. Even though the Beiyang army and navy called upon other Chinese armies to help fight, the others did not respond to their pleas of assistance because of regional rivalries.
So they were like being juvenile delinquents.
Yes, they were. The land battles between the Chinese and Japanese were bloody and harsh. Yamagata Aritomo, the current Prime Minister of Japan, once said,
"If we don't make a move now, we will lose the chance to do anything."
Though the Chinese dominated in numbers, Japan had the upper hand because of their advancements in military technology and strategizing.
I hate Chinese people!
Wow. That Japanese guy is kinda hot.
In 1895, the Treaty of Shimonoseki was signed, thus ending the war. In the treaty, China recognized the independence of Korea and had to pay Japan 200 million Kuping taels as reparation. The Chinese also signed a commercial treaty that allowed Japanese ships and factories to operate on the Yangtze River.
I'm getting sick of all these Chinese people. Let's talk about the Russians.
Okay, so the Russo-Japanese War began in 1904 with the destruction of the Russian Far East Fleet and the declaration of war on Russia made by the Japanese 3 hours later. The campaign of 1904 began on February 8, 1904 with the Battle of Port Arthur. Port Arthur was targeted because since Japan needed to win the land war, it first needed to control the sea. The person leading the Japanese Navy to Port Arthur was Togo Heihachiaro, and during that time he said,
"If your sword is too short, take one step forward."
Oh, that's right, I remember now. The Japanese won that battle because they're so awesome. The next part of the campaign of 1904 was the Battle of Yalu River. This was a land battle that resulted in heavy losses on the side of the Japanese. However, the Japanese still won because they are awesome. In order to keep Russian troops out, the Japanese had tried to set up a blockade around Post Arthur. However, the blockade was easy to get past and the Russians began laying mines to destroy Japanese ships off the port. Nonetheless, these tactics failed and Japanese artillery was soon firing into the harbor.
Yes, you are correct, Frank. After the campaign of 1904, it was the campaign of 1905. The campaign of 1905 started with the Battle of Sandapu, where the Russian Second Army attacked the Japanese left flank. The Japanese knew that they needed to destroy the army of Manchuria before Russian reinforcements arrived.
For the Emperor!
Well, of course, because if the Russians had gotten there, the Japanese would have been screwed. Anyways, I think after the Battle of Sandapu, it was the Battle of Mukden. This land battle attacked both the right and left flanks of the Russian Manchurian army. Although the Japanese won, they were in no condition to pursue Russian troops. The army was battered to pieces and needed to retreat.
The final battle of the campaign in 1905 was the naval battle of Tsushima. The Russian 2nd Pacific Squadron of their Baltic Fleet sailed to Vladivostok to defend the port. However, the Japanese combined fleet also began sailing to Vladivostok to win the Russo-Japanese War. Though the Russians had tried to avoid being seen by the Japanese, they were spotted because the 2 hospital ships had kept their lights on. As a result, the 2 naval fleets engaged in battle, and in the end the Japanese won. The occupation of the entire chain of the Sakhalin Islands forced the Russians to surrender and sue for peace.